You know, from the very phone in your hand to the coffee in your mug, our lives are literally built on this massive, almost invisible network of global trade. But have you ever really stopped to ask, why? Why does this whole complex web even exist? Well, the answer is one of the most powerful ideas in economics, and we're about to dive right in.
I mean, just look at this. Every single day, ships just like this one are carrying trillions of dollars worth of stuff across our oceans. This whole global dance is basically choreographed by one of the most powerful and honestly kind of counterintuitive ideas in all of economics.
And that brings us to the central puzzle, the big question for today. Imagine one country is just flat out better and more efficient at making absolutely everything than its neighbor. Now, common sense would tell you, well, they have no reason to trade, right? But here's the thing. Common sense, in this case, is completely wrong. The answer lies in this really brilliant economic twist.
So, to unravel this mystery, we got to get on the same page. Let's start with the simple answer to the question, why do we even trade in the first place? Okay, so at its core, trade is just a simple exchange. When we sell our goods, those are exports. When we buy goods from others, those are imports. Simple enough, right? That's the what. But the real magic, the part that solves our puzzle, is in the why. And the key that unlocks this entire puzzle was actually forged over 200 years ago. Yep, back in 1817, an economist named David Ricardo came up with this really surprising idea that would completely redefine how we think about global trade.
Ricardo's genius was to see the difference between two big ideas. On one hand, you've got absolute advantage. That's the easy one. It just means you're better or faster or more efficient at making something. But on the other hand, you have comparative advantage. Now this is the subtle part. It's not about who's the best, it's about who gives up the least to produce something. And that giving up part? Well, that's what economists call opportunity cost. And believe me, it is the secret ingredient here.
So let's look at Ricardo's original example to see what he meant. As you can see from these numbers, Portugal is just better at making both cloth and wine. It takes them fewer hours for each, so they have an absolute advantage across the board. Well, that just makes our puzzle even trickier, doesn't it?
So why on earth would Portugal, the superstar producer, even bother trading with a less efficient England? Why not just make everything itself? This is the very heart of Ricardo's big idea.
And here it is, the beautiful solution. It's all about that opportunity cost. Just think about it this way. For every hour England spends making cloth, it's an hour it's not spending making wine. But Portugal? They're a winemaking machine. For them, spending an hour on cloth means giving up a lot of potential wine. So, even though England is slower overall, its cost for making cloth, in terms of lost wine, is actually lower. That's its comparative advantage. So England specializes in cloth. Portugal specializes in its awesome wine. They trade, and, here's the magic, they both end up with more cloth and more wine than they could have ever made on their own. It's a total win-win.
All right, so that was cloth and wine back in 1817. But what about today? I mean, does a 200-year-old theory really hold up in our crazy modern world of AI, complex supply chains, and digital everything? Let's find out.
You know, in the 21st century, the game has totally changed. Digitization with AI and blockchain is creating new advantages in speed and information. Suddenly, a tiny tech-savvy company can compete globally. Consumer demand for sustainability is making green production a new form of efficiency. Your advantage might be a low-carbon footprint. It's not just about who can make something cheapest anymore, but who can make it smarter, cleaner, and more reliably. And all this is leading to a complete reshuffling of where things get made.
And the scale of this today is just staggering. Remember that container ship from the beginning? Well, just in the sea lanes of Southeast Asia alone, ships like that carry over $5.3 trillion in goods every single year. It's mind-boggling. And this isn't just some abstract theory. It's happening right now. The principle of comparative advantage is exactly why nations like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Indonesia are becoming the world's new manufacturing powerhouses. They're specializing in things like textiles and electronics, and in doing so, they are driving this massive rebalancing of the entire global economy.
But recent global disruptions, from pandemics to geopolitical tensions, have forced a major rethink. The old model of just pure efficiency is starting to give way to something new.
So the old model was all about just-in-time, maximum efficiency, minimum cost, get it there right when you need it. But as this expert insight shows, the new model is more like just-in-case.
Companies are now focused on building resilience, diversifying their suppliers and markets so that a single crisis in one place can't bring their whole supply chain crashing down.
And another huge factor? Sustainability. This is no longer just a buzzword. It's becoming a core driver of trade. Take Europe's plan to put a carbon tax on imports. That will fundamentally reshape what gets traded and from where, creating a whole new kind of comparative advantage based on green, clean production.
So, here we are, full circle. Ricardo's 200-year-old idea is more relevant than it's ever been. Specializing in trading still makes us all wealthier. But the grounds for that specialization have changed dramatically. It's not just about who has the cheapest labor anymore. The real question for the future is, who's going to gain the comparative advantage in artificial intelligence, in green energy, in resilience itself? The answer to that is what will define the next century of our connected world.